Should be live, should be live, should be live, should be live. Almost live. We're live! Hey guys, you're watching Tech Radar. I'm Basil. This is the iPhone 8 Plus. Had this for over 4 days now. Yeah, this phone is good. It's a solid upgrade in a lot of respects, but it's also very, very similar in a lot of others to its predecessor. I'm going to jump into this phone in a sec, but before I do, if you're not already subscribed to Tech Radar, subscribe. That's how you stay on top of everything that we do. Also, this is a live chat. Live chats only really work when you guys are involved. So fire your questions, comments, thoughts, feelings into the live chat window and I will do my best to answer. I'm just going to refresh my window so that I can see everything that you're saying. And I'm going to start with a quick overview of this phone spec-wise. So it's released alongside the iPhone 8. The iPhone 8 Plus has a 5.5-inch screen, full HD, so very similar to its predecessor. In fact, when it comes to numbers, it's exactly the same. LCD technology. You also have a very similar body with one key difference. Around the back you've got a glass back, and that glass back enables wireless charging. Still has a dual camera setup, still has no 3.5mm headphone jack, still has stereo speakers, albeit stereo speakers that are a bit louder than its predecessor, and still has a fingerprint scanner, unlike the iPhone X. The design is frankly a little bit boring when you consider the Samsung Galaxy S8s on the market, the Note 8 with their edge-to-edge displays, LG's full vision on the G6 and the V30, all of the above, kind of making the iPhone 8 Plus feel a bit dated from the offset. But does that make it a phone you shouldn't consider? It depends on what phone you've got. Right, so that's my brief intro into the iPhone. Let's see what you guys have to say. So Jebi Dabsi is really keen for us to give him a shout out, so shout out to you, Debbie. Nihad Faisal, more portrait mood pictures. We'll get some portrait mood pictures on our Instagram, and obviously we'll do loads in the full review. I'll also walk you through the portrait mode if you want. We can do some portrait shots of R2D2 right here. You've also got comments from Unboxing Gadget. Nice. Hey, Unboxing Gadget. Shahad Razul, what will be the best for photography, Note 8 or iPhone 8, and also for videos? So for videos, my inclination based on specs would be the Note 8 if you want to use that second 2x zoom. But if you want to have that 60 frame per second 4K video, the only ones that can do it are the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus at the moment. Obviously the iPhone 10 will be able to do it as well. Photography, I haven't done a side-by-side with the Note 8 myself, but the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus and Note 8 just are all going to be really, really good photo phone cameras. In my initial tests though, the iPhone 8 Plus seems to expose things a little bit more than older iPhones. It performs very well in low light. In good light, it grabs a shed load of detail, which is also very, very cool. Optical image stabilization, by the way, is only on the primary lens and sensor combination. So that secondary 2x zoom, unfortunately, performs not that great in low light. So if low light photography is a big thing for you, you may want to veer to the Note 8. Also, the Note 8 comes with manual mode out of the box, so you can take manual pictures. You don't need to pay and download a third-party application. Hopefully that's helped with that question. Al Pimp, yeah, that's a interesting name. Almost the same. Average users won't mind the difference. Video recording. So Alpim starts answering the question. He's saying exactly what I'm saying about the Note 8 being very comparable with the iPhone 8 Plus. Right, more shout outs, less questions. Shout out to one Shafiq. We've got J Eagle Vivo, who asks me what I think about the emojis. The animojis aren't on this phone. The animojis are only on the iPhone 10, unfortunately. Daniel Kruger, does it feel more premium because of the weight, the glass edition? It does feel more premium than the do you know what, actually it feels more hollow when you tap the back than the iPhone 7 Plus, but it feels like more rich in the hand. I saw on another review they talk about the fact it's not quite as slippery because of the glass back, and that's true if you've got sweaty palms. But on the downside, when you've got a phone that's laden with fingerprints like this is because of that glass back, it also looks less premium. if you've got an iPhone 7 Plus, the 7 Plus cases fit the iPhone 8 Plus as well, so that's nice to know. So if you don't like all the fingerprints, you can stick a case on it, but then that adds a little bit more size onto your phone. Right, let's see what you guys are saying. J Eagle Vivo, what do you think about wireless charger? Wireless charging is excellent. I think it works really well on all wireless charging phones, and the fact it is on the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus mean that it will become a bit more ubiquitous. You'll be seeing them in more stores, and more manufacturers will include it. It is nothing new. Apple absolutely did not invent this technology, and we're nowhere near the first to integrate it, but it's a very handy fact that makes the battery on here feel like it's better than it actually is, and I will come on to the battery in a second. So Stingray asks, how's iOS 11 on that iPhone 8? Is it worth switching from Android? If you're sold into Android, there is so much in the Android space that is excellent value for money, and potentially more exciting, more juicy, like the Samsung Galaxy S8 Plus. But if you are looking for an iPhone, this is the best one that you can buy right now. iOS 11 is the best version of iOS. There are a few neat features and customizations as well. We haven't had customization that often from Apple, but swipe up from the bottom, the control center is customizable. You can see I've set shortcuts to things from screen recording right through to set my alarms to taking notes. Apple's brought in a level of customization on iOS 11 that we haven't seen, and I really like it. Right. Does the decreased battery capacity affect battery life? So in the 4 days I've been using this, I'd say not massively. It's similar to the iPhone 7 Plus. It might be slightly worse. We haven't done screen on side by sides, but it will get you through a day just, and have a wireless charger at your desk and it will do so easily. Have a wireless charger at home, in the kitchen, have a few dotted around, an initial outlay that will save you running dry very quickly. What about the weight? It's 200 grams in weight by comparison to something like the LG V30, which is 158 grams. It's a much heavier phone. That heaviness does add an element of premium to it. If you've got small hands, you'll want to go for the smaller one, and this isn't a review of the regular iPhone. The regular iPhone has worse battery than the iPhone 8 Plus, so the weight of this might put you off. My advice, go to a shop, check it out for yourself. If it fits comfortably in your hand and doesn't weigh you down too much, then you've got the answer. So Ayon Bora asks for a camera demo, which I'll give you in a sec. Mark Bullman asks, how's the sound? The sound is excellent. It's amongst the best stereo audio from a phone I've ever used. Did some side-by-sides with the XZ1 and the HTC U11, and the sound is very good. So Apple should be commended in that regard. Let's see what you guys are saying. Saga Sona, which camera is better? Note 8 7 Plus, or 8 Plus or 7 Plus. So the camera on the 7 Plus seems to be worse with regards to low light. It doesn't necessarily brighten things up as much, but actually it delivers a bit more reality, because when you overexpose in low light or expose a bit more, it might brighten things up a bit, but it doesn't necessarily make it look more realistic. I think it's going to be subjective. We've hit a point now when it comes to camera phones where most camera phones are really good. This is another really good camera phone. It's a contender for top dog, but actually what dictates what the best camera phone is will likely be your own eyes. It is getting that subjective now. Obviously there are tests that you can do, noise and white balance accuracy, etc., and we'll do all those, but you can at least be guaranteed that this is a very good camera phone. Right. Questions out of the way, let's give you a quick run through as to the overall kind of performance in terms of day in day out use. So the 5.5 inch screen is good. You've got something called True Tone on here. So if I swipe up from the bottom and in Control Center, I can long press on the brightness control. I can switch on night shift and True Tone. True Tone reads the ambient light in a room and adjusts the screen's calibration accordingly. Personally, I find it works well when you've got it side by side with an old iPhone, but when you've got it in isolation, you wouldn't really know it's on. Gareth, our mobile editor, he likened it to when you buy an expensive car and you kind of close the door and it makes a reassuring click. It's that kind of thing. It's nice to know it's there, but is it a must-have? Is it really necessary? I'm not entirely sure. And with design so similar to its predecessor, I mean, iOS 11, which is one of my favorite things about this phone, is on the iPhone 7 Plus. You really need standout features to make you want to upgrade from that phone to this phone. The screen is still good, goes up to I think just over 600 nits in brightness, so outdoor viewability is good, nice and responsive. 3D touch as well is better integrated than it has been, not in a hardware sense, but because apps take better advantage of it. For example, in the operating system it's baked in, so I can tap through on a folder and it will highlight the application that has notifications outstanding that I can then jump straight into. So that's cool, but I can actually like jump straight into like a third-party application, for example like Spotify, long press and it will show me all my recent played songs. It's nice that third-party application manufacturers, application makers are taking advantage of that. In Android it isn't being done quite as aggressively with Google's long press system, and things like I think it was Force Touch that Huawei introduced never took off at all. So Apple's kind of got the monopoly on that, and it works really well on the iPhone 10. Stability is also excellent, and things that we love using, stuff like AirDrop that just makes it really convenient if you do have a Mac, works to perfection. Do I mind the fact there's no headphone jack on here? I tend to use Bluetooth headphones, but the thing with Bluetooth headphones is I use over-ear ones. When the battery dies on them, I need to resort to a line-in cable, and I can't unless I have my adapter. So for me personally I do, but Gareth again, who is reviewing this as well, doesn't mind it so much. So you have to ask yourself what you really need out of your audio device. It also doesn't have the quad DAC that the LG V30 has, for example. Right, let's get on to some of your other questions. Is wireless charging faster, slower, or slower than the regular charge? That's from Craig K. It's slower. It's a fair bit slower than plugging it in. Unfortunately, the iPhone 8 Plus doesn't ship with a fast charger. You'll have to buy that separately or use your iPad charger, for example. So you've almost got 3 tiers of charging speed. The slowest is wireless charging. Slightly faster is charging through the supplied charging port, and the fastest charging brick of the lot is the iPad charger. What else? Apple should have named it the iPhone 7S, 7S Plus. I think that's a really good point, and that was from Rika Cynthia Madowin. Thanks for the comment, Rika. Apple seems to be trying to shed the S moniker on their phones, and I think that's a sensible thing to do. But one thing I will say, it's confusing that Apple released the iPhone 10 when they release this just 2 months earlier. Personally, I wouldn't want to buy an iPhone 8 Plus now just because I haven't used the 10. It wasn't me who was out at the launch event, it was Gareth. So I'd want to get that in my hands before I shelled out almost $1,000 for this phone. So to put it into context for pricing, this is available in 2 capacities, 64 gigabytes or 256 gigabytes. I would have loved a 128 gigabyte version. I think that one might have hit the sweet spot of enough storage to last for the duration of my phone contract and the right price. As it stands though, you're going to be paying almost it'll cost over $1,000 for the highest capacity version if you're in the US, and almost £1,000 for the 256 gig version, which is the one I'd recommend, especially if you like that 4K 60 frames per second video, which does look excellent. Right, let's see what comments you guys have put in there. Sri Kabbalah, better battery life than the 7 Plus, like I said, about the same on first impression. ABCD, why don't you review budget and mid-range smartphones? I will unsubscribe if you don't review. Sorry, dude. We try and do roundups more on the site than on YouTube for the budget and mid-range phones. So head over to techradar.com and you should be able to get anything you need. If there's any specific phone you want more information about coverage on, let us know, and we will do our best. Right. Comments. Stupid iPhone, it's $1,100 in my country for the 64 gigabyte version. Oh, you must be in Australia or somewhere. That's from ABCD. Yeah, it's an expensive phone. iPhones are always very expensive, and that's why initially I said when someone asks should I get this or an Android phone, ask yourself what ecosystem are you sold into, and also how much do you want to be paying for your phone going forward and upgrading from it. You can get Apple phones on finance, so it's a £40 or whatever it is a month cost, and then get an offline phone with a SIM card, and that could work out a little bit cheaper, a little bit more manageable. Or you could opt for another flagship, a Samsung Galaxy S8, for around half the price, and it really is half the price. Then you get expandable storage, but like I said earlier, you do get things with the iPhone that you won't get on those, like that super fast video recording, high frame per second 4K. Checking out your comments. Other than price, why would you not get the X, the fingerprint scanner? So that comment was from Chris Finch. I did just say that the iPhone X does kind of overshadow the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus quite heavily, or the iPhone 10, sorry, but it doesn't have a fingerprint scanner. And personally, like, I don't know where you are, but you have Oyster cards here in the UK. When you go to the train station, you double tap on the home button and it activates your credit card for Apple Pay. You can just tap on by putting your fingerprint scanner on. If you actually have to look at it in order before putting it down, and it has to read your face, I'd be really curious to see the implications with regards to people who day in day out use their iPhone as an Oyster card. Alternatively, you can use an Apple Watch, and hopefully that double tap on the side will still work, and maybe that's something that Apple wants to do, encourage people to move their Apple payments to their Apple Watch, by contrast to that new iPhone 10. But I'm just not as confident, albeit having not used Face ID for payments, as I am in a fingerprint scanner. Apple made the fingerprint scanner and Touch ID ubiquitous, so if anyone can make the system of face recognition work, it is probably Apple at this point. They only tend to bring stuff to market when they're confident in it. But yeah, let's see how it goes with that one. Few other questions. The British Unknown. Hey Basil. Hey British Unknown. Nice to have you in here. James Pierce, considering returning my Note 8 for the 8 Plus. Call me crazy, but one Apple Watch series as well. Battery on the Note 8 is not great, to be fair. No, the battery on the Note 8 isn't great. The battery on the 8 Plus isn't exceptional either. It's, like I said, good, and it will just get you through a day. But both of these phones have the wireless charging I was talking about, and I do personally find that it makes a pretty big difference. And I understand that, James. If you want an Apple Watch, there's not really anything that you can do about it. It would be interesting to get your thoughts on the Gear S3 or the Gear Sport that was just announced at IFA. If you've ever used one, Tizen is a neat alternative to Apple's ecosystem in terms of watches, but it doesn't obviously have the app support, but it does have offline Spotify playback now, which is really, really cool. Let's see, more questions. The British Unknown, although the upfront price is seemingly high, if you're on a contract, for most people it will only cost a little more a month. I think it's more than a little more a month, specifically if you get the offline phones. That's the British Unknown. If you were to get something like a Galaxy S8 for £500 odd at the moment, as opposed to the £800+ iPhone 8 Plus, that £400 saving could go into paying off the duration of your phone contract. But British Unknown says the lack of fingerprint sensor is a deal breaker for me. Couldn't agree more, but haven't used it yet. Face ID, that is. Right, so answered most of your questions. Now let's talk about this camera. And we're going to talk about the camera UI, so you're going to need to get involved in this one. We have R2D2 here, and I'm going to open it up, the camera, and just ask the video guy, are we good, Tom? Can you see what's going on screen? Yep. Excellent. So if I want to take a portrait photo, swipe down. As soon as you jump into portrait, you can see it goes to the 2x zoom lens, because you've got the two lenses around the back. 2x zoom and regular. Regular's getting my little pinky in there. Tap to portrait and you've got the 2x zoom. You've also got these options on the side. Do you want to block out the background, black out the background completely, or do you want to have the natural light? I'd always take the shot with natural light. You can also see my hand's shaking quite a bit. That's because optical image stabilization isn't on that second lens. But tap the screen, take the picture, and the reason I'd always take it in natural, or the default setting, is because first off, it's going to take a good picture. in good light with clear lines surrounding your subject, you're going to get a good picture. But specifically, what you can do is press the edit button, and then after that you can change the lighting like so, and you can see it's just cut out R2-D2 completely in the foreground. In fact, this is the best example of this kind of stage light mode that I've seen, because it's so clean around the black and white. It's really neat what it's been able to do using the perspective information. The other options do things like fill flash the front of R2-D2 there, so brighten him up a little bit, and contour lighting gives it a little bit more drama, ups the contrast in the foreground. So it doesn't feel perfect, it does still feel like it's in beta mode, and you know what, that's because it is. This isn't rolled out yet to the iPhone 7 Plus, and in fact Apple hasn't even confirmed whether it will, but it's a neat little addition to the 8 Plus camera. Is it enough to warrant buying this phone over a 7 Plus? I wouldn't say it is, considering you can get the background blur on the 8 Plus anyway, but like I said, it's a nice to have. As far as other shooting modes go, you can shoot that 4K video at 60 frames per second and full HD slow-mo at 240 frames per second. Check out Andrew's video that went on YouTube today. Andrew London, he writes all the words on the techradar.com, but he made a video explaining how you can activate that 4K video in the settings, because it is not on by default. Right, so British Unknown, there's no new front camera, right? No new front camera, same 7 megapixel sensor. In this phone's defense, while there's no front flash, the screen does get very bright when it does emulate a front flash. Is this a new review of the iPhone 7 from Dave Jones? Lol. It's basically an iPhone 7 Plus, like I've said, but it does have a few key enhancements, and one of those is the portrait lighting mode that I did just talk about, and the wireless charging. Please 4K recording. We'll showcase some 4K recording and maybe link out to some in our full review. That was from Subhash Deol. Sean Orgiaco says, how's the audio quality? I've already said the speakers smash it. It's also IP67 water and dust resistant, which is cool. Note though, if you are submerging this in water or it is raining, the audio can get a little bit muffled if it gets into the crevices, so make sure it is nice and dry if you are showing off the audio. Simon says, buy a phone from Very or other catalog, get 20% off as a new customer and spread the Simon, do you work for Very or another catalog? Because this is advertising if ever I saw it. How's the camera performance in low light compared to the Note 8? Haven't tested it yet, but compared to the S8, it overexposes, interestingly, a little bit more than older phones. Find that it subdues colors a little bit as well, so it isn't quite as punchy, isn't quite as poppy, but maybe is a little bit more realistic. It hasn't also, in my initial tests, got the best dynamic range that I've seen, but still, sharpness is very good. Right, I think that is most of the questions about the iPhone. There's a lot of interest about the Mate 10 in this chat room. For anyone who doesn't know the rumors, the Huawei Mate 10 is expected to launch on October the, I think, 14th or some date around that time. The Mate 10 is expected to have 2 front cameras and 2 back cameras, virtually bezel-less design, and the processor, the new Kirin chipset. Huawei announced at IFA, they said is the world's first chipset with AI baked into it, so it gets to know you. Kind of creepy, but kind of cool. Whether that pertains to the front cameras and back cameras, so it knows how you take photos, or something else is yet to be seen. Watch this space, we will do a lot on the Mate 9. Tell me about Google Pixel 2, please. That's from Rajkumar Sharma. Thanks for the comment, Rajkumar. Check out our rumor roundup, but in a nutshell, Google Pixel 2 will be 2 phones, Google Pixel 2, Google Pixel 2 XL, one around 5 inches, one around 6 inches. The 5-inch phone is expected to be a fair bit bezel-licious. It's going to look a little bit like a Google Pixel 1, but the 6-inch phone is expected to look more like a V30, and I say that because LG is supposed to be making it, whereas HTC may be making the smaller phone. Both expected to have Squeezy Tech Edge Sense, and both expected to obviously run Android O. Snapdragon 835s inside. probably adopt that same cloud storage that we've seen in the original Google Pixel, and they will have single cameras around the back. The camera modules on the backs of the Google Pixel 2s in renders look like as big as a fingerprint scanner almost. So we're expecting a big sensor with tons of light grabbing capabilities, probably no optical image stabilization if the Google Pixel 1 was anything to go by. So that was the Google Pixel 2 in a nutshell. Let's see what else you're saying. Jimmy Chan, I have a 7 Plus. Do you think I should upgrade to the 8 Plus? Honestly, I don't. I have a 7 Plus 256 gig version that I bought, and I won't be upgrading. 256 gig 7 Plus, I'd sooner probably get that than a 64 gig 8 Plus. And given the pricing will be more similar, it's on you though. Like, how much do you need wireless charging in your life? How much do you need that portrait effect in your life? If portrait blur is enough for you, then the 7 Plus will be enough for you as well. But I definitely feel a little bit underwhelmed as a 7 Plus owner. But if you have a 6 Plus or a 6S Plus, that's when you're introducing the dual cameras into the mix, as well as that awesome 4K video. Let's see. Raj Kumar Sharma asks if I reply. I replied to your other comments, so hopefully that answers that question. Let's see. Any other questions? No, that's pretty much it for the most part. Right, so I've talked about performance on, I've talked about, sorry, the screen and the design of this thing, but I haven't talked really about performance, and I found everything was really nice and smooth. But one thing I didn't find was that it was much faster than the iPhone 7 Plus. The A10 chipset in the iPhone 7 and 7 Plus is really, really good. iOS is a very efficient operating system, and that's one of the major reasons that I'd say I'm not entirely sure it's worth an upgrade to the iPhone 8 Plus if you have a 7 Plus, because I didn't experience any slowdown in my old iPhone. And if you're not experiencing slowdown in your 7 or 7 Plus, then chances are you would be very, very happy keeping it and holding out at least until November, at least until you know what the X will bring with it. And then maybe you can trade up, or if you decide to just get the iPhone 8 Plus, that is your shout. Few more questions coming in. Is the black glass fingerprinted? Yes, it is. The back glass has all the fingerprints. It really, really likes fingerprints. And what is the most attractive color? Space gray or silver? Silver attracts fingerprints way less than the space gray. So the space gray is going to look grubbier, but the space gray, the black phone, is also going to look sleeker and smaller. Black is a slimming color. The same rings true on phones as it does on dresses, I guess. So let's see what else you are saying. Thinking of coming away from Samsung and going for the LG V30. It seems to be doing well in reviews, and I want to experience good sound with Sony headphones. The LG V30 is a super impressive phone. You can see the review that just went live. The quad DAC has excellent sound when it comes to those headphones. It's a lot lighter than the iPhone. It feels a little bit more hollow, but it gives you a bigger screen for less surface area. So LG should absolutely be commended right now for stepping up their game. It is so good compared to the G6. Huawei said Mate 10 will be better than the current generation iPhones. Fighting talk from Huawei, and that's from Jabba Ovi. Interesting. We obviously can't say. It's all speculation at this stage. And any news on the Nokia 9 or Nokia 8 version 2 from the British Unknown? Nokia 9, it's just rumors, but the rumors make it look like an absolute beast with a full vision or edge-to-edge display. I'm really, really hopeful that Nokia does step up its game. But actually, me knocking R2D2 over, actually what's really cool about the Nokia 8 is that it launched, and we originally thought it was going to be priced at around £550 or something like that, but it's actually £499. It's one of the most affordable Snapdragon 835 devices around. What's also really cool is that it's expandable. So between that expandability, the fact that it's got a Quad HD screen, this is a Nokia 8 by the way, and the fact it's got 64 gigs onboard storage, in those respects at least it beats out something like the OnePlus 5, which is the master of affordability. If Nokia can lock down their firmware and make it nice and stable, then the Nokia 8 may actually be an absolute contender. It's had one software update so far since it came to market, so fingers crossed that has done the job. Let's see what you guys are saying. Simon says, I am not a catalog representative. I work for Sainsbury's, but catalogs is a good way to save money. Good shout, good shout. So if you live in the UK and you want a phone, check out the discounts you can get on catalogs. And of course, we've got loads of discounts on techradar.com as well for the best prices. Our like little munchkins trawl the web and get the best ones for you. I think that is it now. All of your questions. I'm gonna close up the comments room. Just a quick shout out to Ibrahim Al-Sheikh from Syria. He says, hey back. Thank you for commenting. Tiago Kun, what about the gold color? Seems classy. If you like gold, it's a very subdued gold. Not personally for me personally. Cool. Right, let's talk about this phone a little bit more. And we're going to talk about the battery. Like, I use this phone like a power user. And if you're like me, I have the screen on pretty much most of the day at some point. What makes it so much easier is the fact that it's on my desk with the screen on. I get email notifications on here all the time, and it's charging simultaneously, and it's not plugged in. Then I have to run to a meeting, I just grab it. Wireless charging, when I'm reviewing a phone that does have it, because I always have wireless chargers around, it changes the way I review a phone. Like, I just jumped from the Sony Xperia XZ1 Compact, and I found that I wasn't able to make it last as long, even though technically it has a better battery, just because I couldn't just plop it down on a machine and have it charge passively while I was getting on with my day, listening to music, wireless headphones, etc. So in terms of the battery, it probably won't last as long as some of the other key competitors, but just like the Samsung Galaxy S8, just like the V30, and just like the Samsung Galaxy Note 8, that wireless charging should make a difference. If you are thinking about this phone and you're worried about the battery, I'd say don't be too worried. Be worried more about your storage options. Is 64 gigabytes going to be enough to last you as long as you need it to last? And that pretty much wraps up 4 days in with the iPhone 8 Plus. There you go. It's a really good phone, but it was always going to be a good phone. iPhones generally are. What I can't say is that it is a worthwhile upgrade from the iPhone 7 Plus, but it is from the iPhone 6 and 6S Plus. If I missed any of your questions, apologies for that. Fire them in the comments section below after this video goes live. It's going to be on the channel for a few days. And yeah, make sure you subscribe to TechRadar. If you haven't already gone over to techradar.com, checked out all our coverage on the iPhone 8 Plus, be sure to do that. It's got a lot more detail in there. Thanks for watching. Bye.